All right, welcome back to CBS Sports HQ College Football Pregame presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We are officially entering hour 3 of our pregame coverage, taking you all the way up to those noon kickoffs. I'm Jordan Giorgio alongside Damian Harris, Danny Cannell, and Cardell Jones. We are with you and breaking down the big SEC matchup all morning long. It's Tennessee and Georgia out in Athens. We talked a lot about Nico. We talked a lot about Tennessee. I do want to get into both run games, though, and how important it's going to be, Damian, to get both run games going up against both really good defensive fronts.
Well, it's going to be incredibly important because you look at Nico, a young quarterback who's coming off injury. He's going to need to lean on the run game. And then you've got Carson Beck, on the other hand, who is a turnover machine. And all he's doing is just giving the ball to the guys in the other colored jersey. So what's Kirby Smart going to do? At some point, he's going to figure it out and say, I've got to lean on my run game. Well, what are you going to do without ETN? I mean, it's just like the run game is going to be so important to both quarterbacks. Who's going to be able to depend on it more? In my opinion, I think it's going to be Tennessee because Dylan Sampson, like I said, has been one of the most phenomenal, underrated running backs in college football this season. This is going to be an ugly game. I'm definitely taking the under. I mean, what is this? 46.5 total for both teams.
Yep.
But it's definitely going to be an ugly game. It's going to be on the ground. You know, which defense shows up. It's going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Most definitely. All right, well, let's go ahead and welcome in another member of our crew. It's been a minute, and I'm so excited to say hello to our own Josh Pate, who is live for us out in Athens. Josh, it is great to see you. First and foremost, let's just go ahead and get a vibe check from Georgia. How are things? How are they treating you?
Great question. So we've got the double queen instead of the king. And the vibe is,
look at you.
I'd say the vibe's pretty good. I mean, last week we were in the shadow of the West Baton Rouge Welcome Center, as everyone on the desk will remember. So today, a little more climate controlled. Here's the reality. I went to the wrong hotel this morning. So if anyone needs to shame me, you can shame me. But we have a wonderful hotel room from which to do our shot here.
Okay, you might be taking a page out of Damian's book because this happens. We're what? Week 12 into the season?
Every single weekend. I just can't figure it out. I showed up at one hotel. I got a reservation at another. I get there. They tell me it's too late to check in. So I get two double beds as well. I've been there, Pate. I've been there.
Yeah, he has. So he understands the feeling. All right, let's go ahead and get into this game, you guys. It's no secret, Josh, how big of a game this is when it comes to the college football playoff and the implications that it has. I do want to focus on Georgia here because we've talked a lot about Tennessee. First season since 2020 with multiple losses. Where do you stand with this Georgia team?
I don't know what their identity is. I was over there yesterday, and it's, you know, there's a competitive character that program has had under Kirby Smart. So there's never going to be like an ounce of flinching or self-doubt, but there's also a healthy amount of admitting, yeah, we haven't been this, we haven't been that. For example, I don't know that any of us imagined for the preseason #1 team in the country and it being Georgia that we would get to November and their running game would be in the 100s. I don't think that we would have thought we'd get to this point in the season and Carson Beck would be the turnover machine that he has been. I mean, their offensive line is beat to death. But I say all that, and everyone knows that no one's going to feel sorry for them. They're Georgia. So it's very first world problems. Suck it up. You guys recruit, and you got a big budget, and you got great facilities. So just go win anyway. And the way someone put it to me yesterday is you can be a billionaire or a trillionaire. But if a shark bites your leg in the ocean, it hurts just like it hurts the rest of us. And they're dealing with some really, really real-world problems right now. Having said that, if they win today, they've got a great shot. They've got an inside track to the playoffs, and then Cannell and I get to talk about whether Tennessee should be in, and that'll be a fun separate conversation. But they feel like they need about 20 to 23. Like they feel like their defense can put them in position to win this if they can scratch out points. And again, we're talking about the preseason Heisman winner at quarterback trying to scratch out points. It's wild.
Pate, what's the biggest matchup battle that you're going to be watching today? Because for me, it's going to be this Tennessee defensive line led by James Pierce Jr. against Georgia's offensive line. But what matchup do you think is going to be most key to determine a winner in today's game?
That would be my first. That would be my 1A. So let me go with my 1B. I think, and there's some people around the league who think Tennessee's secondary is a little more vulnerable than it has looked. Now, eventually we get to November, and you kind of just have what you have. But, Damian, if you go back and you look at Tennessee's schedule this year, where's the traditional downfield passing game that they've faced? On paper, the best passing attack that they will have faced would have been Alabama. But that's very run-based, and Milroe was just bad that day, missing wide-open guys. They say he wasn't hurt. I don't necessarily believe that, but my point remains is that Georgia's wide receivers are not special. They do not get yards after catch. They're not great at generating separation. But what they do present, that Tennessee hadn't seen all year, is they do present a more traditional pro-style passing game. And if there are areas to be exposed in that secondary, ironically, it's Georgia's passing attack that could stand the best chance of doing it. Now, that's a big if because, like I said, there is no Ladd McConkey here. There is no Brock Bowers here. They have had to suspend or dismiss a couple of guys that may have backfilled those roles. So that's what I'm watching, because that seems to me like it's either something that'll click early and make us go, wow, or it'll be something that they try early and Tennessee shuts it down and Georgia has no backup pitch.
Nico's starting, obviously, but there was a lot of speculation where his health was. Do you think Heupel calls a game differently? Do you think they try to protect him at all, or is this just whatever it takes, we're rolling Nico out there and we're going to have a game plan just like we've had every other time he started?
I think so, man. And I don't know this. That's just not guided knowledge. It's just my personal feel on it is you're coming back from not an ankle or not a shoulder. You're coming back from concussion, and I don't have any expertise in that area either, so this is just me guessing. But I think what's also interesting, Danny, is he's starting. Most of us expected that throughout the week. But on one hand, yeah, you want to be respectful and careful of the guy. On the other hand, you're either ready to go or you're not. Like if we got to baby you through play calling, then you're not ready to go. So there's that attitude you can have. But also, his backup has been with Heupel for years and years and years. And I was talking to some Georgia staffers yesterday, and they kind of surprised me when they said, we think Nico's a higher caliber quarterback, but we really don't think there's that much difference whether he plays or whether the backup plays in terms of the game that Heupel will call. So it's not to like diminish Nico's like physical abilities, but they said, we kind of think we know what we get from either guy. Having said that, there is a different element that Nico can give you with his legs. It's an element I don't think we've seen him give them yet this year, but if we've been using the C word this week, concussion, is that really the element of his game we want to put on display in Athens, Georgia, against Georgia on a Saturday night? I'm not sure.
One more question, Josh, on this game. This is a huge one. Is this an elimination game for one of these teams if they was not to leave Athens victorious?
My personal feel is it is an elimination game for Georgia. I don't think it is for Tennessee. If Tennessee were to come down here and lose by a field goal and that's their second loss, they're just one of like 22-loss SEC teams at that point. They're just kind of thrown into the soup. If Georgia loses, you're going to have a big debate on Selection Sunday. You'll have Kirby making some of the same arguments that Saban has made in the past of, yeah, we've got multiple losses. However, we'd be favored against these teams. Our schedule was tougher. Some of those points will have a lot of merit. And then on the other side, you'll have people, you've got one sitting at the desk right now, who will say, well, forget about rankings, forget about power ratings, forget about roster. You got to win your games. And he'll be right. And then someone else will yell back, yeah, but if we played the games you played, we would have won all of them. And then someone else will say, just expand the playoff further to solve all the problems. And that person will be wrong. Everyone else will just have different amounts of merit in their argument. I personally think they're going to leave Georgia out if they have 3 losses.
I love that you're looking over.
I want you to settle something because it's been a little contentious in here today. Mackenzie's been challenging me back and forth. And we have a difference of opinion on the game in Gainesville today. LSU travels in there, back-to-back losses. DJ Lagway's getting the start for the Gators. I won't even tell you what sides we're on, but what do you expect from this game?
I think with Lagway playing, Florida is a top 25 caliber team, not in rankings. They don't belong anywhere near that in rankings, but just in an odds-making vein, they are a good team if they're still checked in. And I don't know, you can tell me, man, back when you played, bowl eligibility and playing for that meant a lot. Maybe dudes don't care about that as much anymore, but if they win 2 of their next 3, then they're there. I will say this as well, guys. So to answer your question, Daniel, I slightly lean Florida plus the points, very slightly.
Smart,
but
man.
I also want you to think about this. It's going to be irresponsible, but I'm going to throw it out there. There is a lot of chatter in the industry that statement that they put out was a lot more a temporary vote of confidence for Billy Napier than it was a slam dunk, stamp it, seal it up, it's done, he's back next year. So let's just keep that in mind as we're watching these last few Florida games down the stretch. I'm not quite sure the future of Florida football is as cemented as that statement from Scott Strickland may have made it appear a couple of weeks ago.
Pate, as we're monitoring DJ Lagway and evaluating him coming back from injury, he is dealing with a hamstring, and I think that that's going to limit him more in the run game. Have you seen enough from Lagway in the passing game and his arm talent, the way that he sees the field? Do you think he's a good enough quarterback to, if his legs are eliminated from the game plan, that he can still beat you with his arm?
No. I don't need 100% of his legs. I need them to be a threat. I need LSU and Blake Baker to have to respect it enough. It's kind of like Jalen Milroe. We were talking a little while ago about how he is a phenomenal downfield passer, but it's all predicated off his ability to run. It is a run-based passing game. I think Lagway is the same way. Now, look, maybe if you ask me that question in a couple of years and he's matured as a passer, maybe it's a different story. But right now, I even think the Florida coaching staff would tell you us getting him back better mean we've got his legs back. And remember, this was not a definite scratch last week. Like, he warmed up, he wanted to go last week. So if we work off the idea that he almost could have gone last week, maybe that extra few days does get him fully ready to use head to toe every bit of his arsenal.
Switching gears a little bit and heading to another out-of-conference, non-conference opponent, Notre Dame, as the second week of the college football playoff ranking has came out there in that top 12. What are your thoughts on them being in the top 12 of the college football playoffs when they're not even going to be competing for a conference championship? And, you know, the questions already came into play of the strength of schedule and not having that staple win remaining of the season.
Yeah, I think FSU and USC being down kind of hurt their back half of their schedule, of their opportunities. You got a couple of schools of thought here. I'm probably a little wishy-washy on it. I probably fall somewhere in between. You got folks out there, I've heard Fornelli talk about it a lot, saying losing to Northern Illinois at home should be a 100-pound weight tied around your ankle, and it should drag you out of the playoff conversation. And look, I don't even disagree necessarily, but I also can't say it in a vacuum. Like, I can heavily punish you for it, but I also still have to look at your resume against the field at the end of the day. So we didn't have a whole bunch of elite teams pop up this year. So maybe Notre Dame works their way back into it, but also as it relates to this game today, I'm not throwing the upset alert meter on it or anything, but everybody's talking about the Army game, and everyone knows the USC game's coming up. And Notre Dame's been clipped a couple of times as a 3+ touchdown favorite at home under Marcus Freeman once already this year. Virginia's been scrappier than folks expected them to be this year. They've played some good teams close in losses. So I'm going to keep one eye peeled on this. But I do wonder, not only, Beanie, do I wonder if Notre Dame can make it in, but think about when we start dealing with the chaos of conference championship weekend and Notre Dame's not there. It's one thing for them to be ranked in the top 12 and to know they're going to have a spot. But are they in one of those 6, 7, 8, 9 spots where not only do they have a shot, or 5 through 8 spots, where not only do they have a shot, they're taking a home playoff game too. Now that's where folks are going to be rubbed the wrong way, and rightfully so.
Pate, I want to take this a direction that I'm sure not a lot of people are willing to go. But if Notre Dame misses out on this 12-team playoff, how much pressure does this put on Marcus Freeman going into year 4, hasn't taken the next step yet? What does this mean for him and his job security?
I think it would feel a lot like the way Ryan Day entered this season.
Okay.
Of you've got a whole bunch of wins, you've got a nice solid program, you're the envy of 90+% of the sport, but your fan base looks and says, we're supposed to be the top 1%. We're supposed to be the top 2%. So all due respect, we don't care that Kansas State envies us or Arizona envies us. We're Notre Dame. And then they're also going to say, this is not 2016 anymore. You guys used to sell us under Brian Kelly on the idea that there's a certain caliber of athlete we can't go after because of the stringent admissions requirements here. But now it's the NIL era, and we've also seen us get guys in here to begin with that all kind of shot that notion down. But we should be able to go out. If we're Notre Dame, if we really got the deep pockets we think we do, we ought to be able to be garnering the same headlines Michigan is. We're willing to pay fill in the blank for a quarterback, whether it's publicly known or privately known. That's the heat that they would feel, because there are certain elements of that program that have been there. They've largely been able to run the ball. They've largely been able to play good defense, but they have not had difference makers out wide. They hadn't had a quarterback that's come in there. They've tried through the portal, but it hasn't really hit for them. And I think those folks would reasonably look and say, there's no reason we cannot be that. Make us be that, or we'll find someone else who will.
Lastly here, Pate, we're making him work this morning, aren't we? All right, let's one more for you. Let's head to Madison, where Oregon has a huge opportunity to clinch the Big Ten title game. They have faced Wisconsin. And is this a bit of a trap game, potentially? What are you expecting from Camp Randall?
Yeah, it's the biggest trap on the board this week. This is Oregon's 8th consecutive game. It is, I think, their 3rd time in the last 6 or so weeks doing the dual time zone travel. Now, it has not bothered them so far, but that just lulls you into a bigger false sense of security. You're playing your 8th game in a row against a rested team, against a really good coach with Luke Fickell with 2 weeks to prepare here, that played better ball after we saw him get blown out early in the season against Alabama. I really wonder if this is not the game that we see Oregon maybe still go in there and win, but look vulnerable a little bit. And then afterwards, you could just imagine Dan Lanning at the press conference saying, we were really beat up coming into this week, man. We're running on fumes. We really needed that bye. We're just, a win is a win. We're happy to get out of here. That's the kind of game this starts to feel like to me. I grabbed Wisconsin plus the points earlier in the week. If you've just watched those teams straight up, there's no reason to think that. But this is college football, and in November, that air gets really thin for these contending teams, and crazier things have happened. I'm keeping a close eye on that. I agree with the way you teed it up. I think it's a huge trap game.
All right, looking forward to it. Pate, thanks so much for joining us. Have so much fun down in Athens. We are jealous. Get more from Josh every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. You can watch Josh Pate's college football show on YouTube. He has everything you need to know to be a part of the greatest game.